Hello, everyone. Not surprisingly, as another anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine approaches, multiple news sources pretty much all over in the US, in Europe, in Ukraine, in Russia, in the UK are posting these summaries of the war and what is going on. It's not a bad thing necessarily. I think it's a pretty good way for people to kind of recap what happened. However, when you look at stuff like that, I actually recommend that you look at the more formal sources that provide more extensive information. Because what I like about, for example, places like the Institute of the Study of War is that they count the start of the war in Ukraine not from 2022, but from 2014, the annexation of Crimea. And I think that is a better view of it. No, it doesn't make me any happier that, according to that count, the war has been going on longer. But I think because they cover what took place before that, provides better understanding for what is taking place now and what is going on with the full-scale invasion. So, CNN, not my favorite source these days. However, this is a pretty decent summary talking about basically some of the major points. Now, it hints at, although it doesn't completely cover, the problem with the poor preparation by Ukraine. And if you want to read about that, I suggest reading something like Arkady Babchenko's column, listening to Vitaly Portnikov, who does have some of his posts in English. So they cover that side of it, and yes, it is a whole lot of uncomfortable truths, but very, very good, well researched, well presented information, and Babchenko is also funny. But that said, it does remind everybody that Russia was trying to do basically an equivalent of a blitzkrieg with this and failed. Nobody thought this was going to go on for years. Heck, they weren't planning on this going on for even weeks. They thought they would have Kyiv and the country in 10 days. So, this article addresses major topics like the invasion itself, casualties on both sides, but particularly the unexpectedly staggering casualties on Russia's side, the impact to Ukrainian civilians, of course, because I think this was a major shock to the world, because a lot of people expected this to stay along the front lines, and it didn't. I don't think a lot of people, including historians, political scientists, and so on, expected Russia to basically carry on with the traditional war along the front line while pummeling the rest of Ukraine. So basically leaving no safe place in Ukraine. Another important thing, economy. And I brought this up before, that sanctions did not have the impact that everybody was hoping for. Because it is true that Russia's public sector and service sector took a hit, but they don't seem to care. And because of the vast development of their military industrial complex, as well as, oil and gas sales, Russia continues to be one of the biggest economies in the world, ninth. which is, I know, it's mind-boggling. You would think, right? How is that possible? That said, one of the things that the author points out is that one must not judge Russia's economic state by what you see in major cities like Moscow. Because Moscow still presents a very pretty front. What you want to do is go away. You go to the country, go to the villages, go to the smaller towns and cities. Go to the cities that are located along the border with Ukraine. And go see how things are going there if you want to get a better picture. And also the problems presented by the ongoing recruitment into the army and a lot of those people getting killed. So now there are labor shortages pretty much in every other major area. There are smaller villages and towns basically missing their entire working male population because of this. And of course, another miscalculation by Russia is that they claimed that this is all about stopping NATO expansion. In fact, the effect was opposite because Sweden and Finland, who both have history with Russia and not good kind of history, joined NATO after the invasion of Ukraine, and that was seen as the direct result of the invasion. So again, I'm not hugely fond of CNN, but this is a good summary. I'll give credit where credit is due. So if you need a recap, please pop over and take a look. As Europe is working on a 90 billion euro loan to Ukraine, Hungary is basically being Hungary. Now, what amused me in this headline by the New York Times is the word unexpected. What is unexpected about this? Hungary is an ally of Russia. Who is surprised? Who is surprised? This is all just Hungary's continuing effort to undermine the EU and continue helping their buddy Putin. And again, I wish there was a process by which a country could be kicked out of the Schengen Agreement and lose all the privileges if their policies are in direct contradiction to the welfare and safety of the European Union. Because this is Hungary right now. There is an article on BBC side, something that is very relatable to me personally, talking about civilians who became soldiers. That is exactly something that happened in my family. I told you we had 4, of whom one is now dead, he's been killed. One is a POW, and the other 2 are still at the front. And then there's this piece on the Guardian website saying that Zelensky still believes that real opportunities to end war with dignity exist. Dude, kinda. But you know, considering Russia's stance, that's not gonna happen. Yes, opportunities exist, absolutely. Russian government could just decide to stop invading its neighbor. That's a really good opportunity. But he is planning another round of talks sometime very soon. But I honestly don't see it. I don't see how you can resolve this with diplomacy. Personally, like I said, the course of action I would propose is kicking Russia off the Security Council, kicking Russia out of the UN, and putting peacekeepers on the ground. Because the only language they understand is brute force. More to come.